That was cool, right? I'll probably forget to talk into the mic because we've been talking without mics for about an hour.
The funniest part is this podcast, as an audio guy, should probably sound incredible. And it's probably the worst sounding thing that's ever existed. Like the first one I did sounded nice. And then I realized like the second one, the mic's cut out and I had to use like half camera audio from it. The third one, the same thing happened and I couldn't figure out why. And then the fourth one, I got the microphones to work, but they were just like way too hot the whole time. And it has like a built-in limit. So,
oh no.
And there's like also, it's just a handheld microphone. So like, there's noises
it's a vibe right
and there's
now.
like,
yeah.
But that's not the point of this conversation.
Well, I've seen a lot of other podcasts that are like this, and I kind of like the format of it. It's almost like we're doing stand-up comedy, except we're not funny. Well, we're pretty funny, but we're not trying to be funny.
I'm not trying to be funny. Well, this format was definitely inspired by that sort of thing where, like the therapy Gecko thing where the dude just sits in the middle of wherever and just talks to people or, And I love that idea too, because we're at your space right now, obviously. So like I could take this setup anywhere and it's super convenient and it's fun.
It might be interesting as a response to the microphone situation is a binaural recording of a conversation.
Just to go
have a fake head between us so they feel like they're sitting in between us.
If that wasn't $10,000, I would actually do that because that would be so cool. Because then you could put like a cool mask on it and then it just literally sits right here and then we're just talking and it's like a third
that'd be
person.
So funny. Oh my God. It's probably not worth it, but this is just as good and this costs like $10.
I saw that and I was going to ask you about that. You just made that. It's the
same.
And you just put two microphones on the side and you put them in Omni, I guess, right?
Omni. And then you can try either, but 45 degrees. Just either
I'll have to hear a recording you did with that. I'm actually curious to hear.
We'll try it later.
Yeah, that's cool.
What's hilarious is if you set it up and it's hot, it's running, and then you're like talking in the room with the person or whoever you're working with, and then you play that back in headphones, it feels like the headphones aren't on and they're like just talking to you. Really? And it's like kind of trippy. It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, we started talking about that, but you obviously do more recording than me. So I imagine there's fun tricks like that are kind of
I was getting really
kind
into
of fun
it.
to experiment with, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been using it recently. The thing that got me really hot on it was if you Google Sean Everett's name, the fifth picture on Google Images is him holding one of those $10,000 heads. And so I was like, I was inspired. A friend gave this to me, and so I wanted to try stuff with it. It's a great drum room. It's great, just like acoustic guitar, like.
Well, the binaural thing is kind of hot right now, I guess, because of like Atmos and like spatial, and everybody's listening on headphones. So like it gives you the ability to do more fun stuff with that.
Yeah.
I got into the like listening to binaural recordings for a while. Like if you listen to some of them, it's like super trippy, like to hear things going all over. But I've never played with actually recording it like that. That's an interesting thing.
It's funny when I set up my my amps for the speakers. I got one of them. For whatever reason, the phase was flipped, and it sounded like I was working in Atmos with one speaker with the phase flipped. The sound was like all around me, but in the center, and I was like, "This is trippy."
You should have just mixed a record like that.
I know.
See what happens.
It was kind of engaging. I might have to show you later. It's really easy to mess it back up again. Yeah.
It's funny. I was actually, I was setting my studio back up the other day and I was like, I wonder if I would even notice if a whole speaker was flipped out of phase. Is that even possible?
It's so bad. It's, it feels like surround sound. Yeah. It's really like, not in a cool way though.
Yeah. You're like, wow, the speaker sounds so wide.
Yeah. Your stereo image is incredible, but there's no center. Yeah.
You check for mono. Yeah. What happens when you collapse the mono? It goes away then, right?
No, it's the same effect, just maybe worse. Maybe just like, I don't know. It's still that weird, like behind your head feeling, just in mono.
Interesting.
So there's less image to it, but it's still it's still only image. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I don't know.
Phase is a whole contraption.
I'm not smart. That's the problem. I'm trying to explain something that smart people talk about.
You are smart. You're trying to explain it in dumb people terms to me, I think is...
I'll take the compliment.
Bobby, what's your most like recent persistent thought? Like what's on your mind? What keeps you up at nights?
I'm not working fast enough. I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Interesting.
Yeah. Are we talking about negative thoughts or just any kind of thought?
I don't know. It could have been a positive thought, but you went negative. So
it could be positive.
What are your positive thoughts then?
That could be a positive thought.
Okay. You're not working fast enough is positive?
But I'm taking my time with things.
Okay.
Maybe that's a positive. I'm trying to flip it on myself.
Why? I mean, what makes you say you're not working fast enough?
Well, we talked about this. We were going to start talking about it, but I think a big thing I'm struggling with is context switching, where I'm finishing up things while I'm also starting things with other people. And so I just had, for example, it was like Monday through like the next Tuesday straight of recording. I think it was only recording drums for 2 different albums.
Okay, but it's 2 different projects entirely.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't have to context switch. I was just on fire.
Just tracking, getting sounds, doing the thing. Got it.
And then on Wednesday, I had to do mix revisions for some stuff that was at 99%. And it was like the hardest thing in the world. I was just like,
Interesting.
Like, and I was talking with some friends last night, and he had a great metaphor. He if you're like buying a cologne or if you're like buying hand soaps or whatever the thing is, if you're shopping for something that's scented, and they always have that little thing of coffee that you sniff in between them that like resets your brain.
Yeah.
And he's like, you need like something like that for your like process if you are gonna, because he was in a similar boat, and he was like, I need like a full day off to just like go do chores or go on a hike or just sit around or just like reset your brain.
Is it coming from a place of like you feel like you sit down to do the revisions and you just like have no perspective on them, or is it you don't even have the desire to sit down and do the revision stuff? Like,
I think it's a perspective thing.
It's a perspective because like you want to sit, like you're motivated to work, but it's just like I'm so still in drum mode and tracking mode and putting up binaural mic mode that I can't sit here and listen and like tweak the vocal a dB.
I just burped into the mic. I can't wait to hear that back. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's going from raw materials to, it's like going from I'm chopping lumber to like I'm putting the last layer of polish on a chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That's an interesting metaphor.
And you're like,
that
I'm still
I've never
covered in
thought about.
sawdust, you know? I don't want to touch the chair that has fresh polish on it.
Interesting.
I don't know what the sawdust would be, but the sawdust is like, you know, cables all over the floor and stuff.
Here's an interesting question then, because I mean, you said you had a day in between, right? So you finished tracking on Tuesday.
I didn't.
But you finished tracking on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday, you came to do the revisions. What are you doing in your downtime? Like what do you do to shut off?
Watching Peaky Blinders and sleeping.
You don't like, is that not, so you don't feel like that's enough of a reset? Maybe there's something to explore within the idea of like what you're doing in your downtime isn't like refilling you.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not a therapist here.
I love it though.
But that's it's like I don't know. I mean, for me, usually is like a new day is always kind of a fresh thing. Usually.
Yeah.
I guess I could see how if I was like really in the thick of like tracking, I'd be like, but for me, it would just be like a tired thing. Like it would be like, I don't even want to go work on anything right now. Like I'm just tired. Like I went 2 weeks straight of just 12-hour days of tracking. Like I just need a day off in general.
Yeah. I could be overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
With all these analogies, and you're like, it sounds like you're tired.
That's what I'm trying to think. It's like, it maybe you are driven to work, but the reality is like, you just need a day off in general because you just did 2 weeks straight of 12-hour days of tracking.
Yeah.
That sounds exhausting.
They weren't all 12-hour days, but just about that.
I mean, I'm just projecting, but I know there's no world where a session is anything less than like
6. 6 hours.
It takes that long just to have conversation before anything even gets hit record.
Yeah, exactly. You think about internal momentum. I have two responses to that. Like you think about your internal momentum of like my excitement is misplaced. And so if I had spent that period of time working on these mixes and then I just had one more day to like tweak a bunch of random notes across like 5 or 6 different songs, like I think I would be so much, I would have remained familiar with those records instead of having put them on hold. And then I think it's just the nature of like the age we're at where I don't know. I'm curious your take on this. Cause like last night I was at dinner with a friend and he's kind of in a similar boat where he's like, my time is split 33% in 3 ways. Like it's like tracking / production, like writing and mixing. And I was like, yeah, that sounds exhausting. Cause that's not where I'm at, but that's sort of like parallel. And you're at a place where you're 100% mixing, it sounds like, or maybe 90-10 or something.
Yeah, it's definitely not 30 anything. I mean, it's for sure 95 mix. 98 mix maybe.
Yeah.
With the occasional vocal recording or production thing that I do for usually mostly fun.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer or know the question, I guess. But I think that's why you have to have things that reset you, and you have the rest, and you kind of know I don't know that it's about working faster or more efficient as much as it's about just having rest in between.
Or doing amphetamines.
Well, I mean, we're in the music industry.
Jokes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I come from a place where the level that I desire to work at, I don't, and this gets all messy because I mean, the industry is such a different place now, but like, I don't desire to split my time a million different ways because I want to be really good at one thing. And I think when you're doing the jack of all trades thing, you sacrifice something, which is what you're talking about, I think. Like you do sacrifice. And that doesn't mean that it's bad or that it's wrong. But I think in an ideal world where everything is the best it can be, essentially, you're not splitting those roles. I mean, you are splitting those roles and you're not taking on everything yourself. Yeah. Because it's not, I always use the analogy of like, do you want somebody coming in your house, even though it's maybe the most convenient option? Do you want somebody coming in your house and doing everything for you? The electrical, the plumbing, the framing, the roofing.
No.
Yeah, it's great. It's easy. You call one dude, you don't have to deal with managing a million people. But, how secure in that do you feel versus hiring just somebody who does electrical all day, somebody who just does plumbing all day, somebody who just does roofing all day? Yeah. My guess is most people are going to pick the latter option where, you have a specialist for each thing because it's all they do. They're ingrained in it every day. They've encountered every issue they can with electrical and they're going to know how to fix it, where the guy who's splitting his time just hasn't put in as many hours doing the one thing as somebody else. But that's where the problem comes up. I mean, you and I are both homeowners, and we know like that's that's the most expensive option. Yeah. And when there's the other option of no, just hire the one dude who does all of it, it's kind of enticing because it's like, well, he does fine. Like, I mean, my house, the houses that he's done haven't caught on fire, and the roof maybe had one leak in the past 10 years. That's a pretty decent track record for a roof, like he's fine. I'll hire him and save 10% of my money or something.
Yeah. I mean, philosophically, that makes complete sense, and I'm totally in agreement. I think like on a pragmatic level and an anecdote, like anecdotally, when you look at what it's like to be in Nashville in your 20s, trying to do music full time, everyone I've talked to, not everyone, but like a grand majority are like wearing 4 or 5 hats at any given moment.
Yeah, but that's their own cross to bear.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones saying yes.
Yeah.
Do you think I don't get asked to master records daily or like even produce or do whatever? I say no. I don't do that. But like here's X, Y, and Z and they do it. Yeah. I mean, I say no to mixing records. I'm like, nah, I just don't do that type of thing. Like it's not I don't resonate with that sound. It's just not, that's not like nobody's sitting there gun to somebody's head going like, you're going to do all this. You're choosing to do that. And it's usually,
I'm holding my own gun to my head.
It's usually because the user wants the money, the person in question, right? They go, no, I don't master records. I don't really ever want to master a record, but they're offering me $85. They're offering me $100. Could I slam it with a limiter and call it a day? And are they probably going to be happy? Yeah. They already trust me because they're already asking me. Yeah, give me your money. And that's where I have a problem with it because I don't know. And that's where I think a lot of the unhappiness comes. Is like people aren't even doing what they want to be doing. They're just chasing a quick buck.
I think Steve Jobs has a quote that I really like that I think you'd appreciate. He said, "You're not focused until you're saying no to things you want to do."
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that's... I have a saying too that, I mean, somebody said or I've heard, but it's like when you're doing what you want to do and are meant to be doing, like things start to open up. Like things start to shake loose in a sense that like you're not diluting your workload with all this other stuff that like drains energy and isn't really like your thing. Like, can I be like, I'm a guitar player. Can I play guitar? Yeah. Am I the best guitar player? Absolutely not. Like, so if I'm taking on the guitar playing gigs just because it pays, like I'm going to be working and toiling over this thing that I just really had no business doing. Whereas if somebody, where I could have been putting that more effort towards mixing records that like I want to be doing, I'm good at, it is my thing. That allows me to charge more money doing it, getting more hours in. People are trusting me more. My name is around more. Whereas otherwise I could have wasted 2 days trying to just learn how to play a guitar solo, when otherwise I could have just called the dude who could have done it quicker and better.
That's like the place that I've been having a lot of fun at right now. Is like I'm finally not playing every part on something I am working on. It's like so cool to be able to be like, we're bringing in the experts, we're bringing in the community, and the thing I'm focusing on is sonics.
And it makes everything better. It makes everything better, right?
Yeah.
Because now you could focus solely on just being like, he's an incredible player. Let me do my job at being incredible at capturing this player and this energy and making it sound good.
Feedback to the player.
Giving feedback, whatever that looks like as a producer or engineer or role, which I mean, those are 2 roles that somebody was just asking me the other day who's not even in the industry. And he's like, can you explain to me the difference between a producer, an engineer, a mix engineer, a mastering engineer, and an artist? He literally asked me that question. And I was like, how long do you have, and in what context do you want me to put this? Because those roles have all changed so dramatically, and they don't. And that's just the hard part of where the industry's at, I think, is so many lines have been blurred, and we really don't have anyone to blame but ourselves, I think, unfortunately.
I'm kind of excited about the lines blurring, to be honest. Like,
are you? Because you just started this conversation with saying, I'm exhausted and I don't know how to manage all these lines being blurred.
I think we need to be aware that the lines are being blurred, and I think everything you're saying is very true. If like you need to know what to say no to, and you probably need to say no to a lot more than you say yes to. But it's funny, like I think we need to think about how like the next generation is moving, because a lot of this is in reference to like, okay, we're millennials, so to speak, and we're trying to push ourselves to, we're leaning sort of this line blurring zone, but we want to push ourselves to specialize and emulate what the generations before us did, because that's what made great records and the music that we look up to. And I don't know, I look at Gen Z kids and like they don't give a shit about that. Like this kid I just did a record with, I mixed it and I was trying to push some mastering engineers on him. He's like, oh, I got a guy. He sends it, didn't tell me anything. Sends it back and I was like, oh, this master's great. Like we're approved. Put it out. It's doing well. Find out a month later, his camera guy mastered it. The dude who made the album art was like, oh, I want to try mastering. And I was like, wait, what? But I don't think that's a recipe for success, but I'm just saying it is happening, and it is like the bottom line isn't are the engineers happy, it's are the consumers happy.
Agreed. I mean, I say all that to say, yeah, I don't, the problem with that though is, are the consumers happy? Yes. Do the consumers care about sonic quality?
I don't know.
No, not specifically. But are you willing to take the risk? Right?
I'd rather not.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where, that guy took the risk and it worked out this time. But what about next time? He calls this guy who's a photographer and that's how he makes his money, and he goes to master the record and he doesn't get to it for 2 weeks, or like he forgets about it, or he messes it up, and it's the reason that everybody says that labels use Serban and whatever still is because it's just protection, it's just insurance. And that's really the name of the game at the highest level, I think, is just knowing that those guys are day in and day out doing the one thing and you trust it. And that's not to say that you have to work at that level when you're just starting out.
Yeah, I think we're at
but you get to a level where you want that because you don't want to have to think about it, right? Like it's the reason you hire a private chef or a personal trainer or whatever those things are, right? Because you don't want to have to worry that what you're going to eat next or that your body's going to get out of shape or whatever. Like that's their job. They're worrying about it. They're telling you what to do and you're trusting them. And I think you get to a level where you have to offload that and give it to just the specifics of it, because otherwise you're playing the lottery each time. And that's where I see so much happening in, Gen Z nowadays, is they're just trying to play the lottery each time, and they're using the same numbers or different numbers, and then upset when they don't hit, and that's just not a way to make a career. It's not a way to have a career. Is you might get lucky once, you might get lucky twice, you might even get lucky 3 times, but what happens after that? That's not how you make a living.
Yeah.
You make a living by making calculated, smart, safe decisions, unfortunately.
I think it's tricky to try and compare people at the scrappy early 20s level to like people at Sermon's level, right? I feel like it's 2 different ball games.
Yes, I don't disagree, but I think you have to be aware of the mindset, though, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of that mindset. I think when you're scrappy and you're just ego fueled doing things, it dilutes the idea of moving forward, and it just continues to feed the ego, and that's why I think I see a lot of it crumbling quickly, because they're just playing the lottery, thinking that's the game, thinking, oh, I could do it all myself. Yes, I don't need anybody else, making art in a vacuum, whatever, and it falls apart, because that's just it's a vicious cycle of self-serving type thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
I'm not saying there's a level of like, oh, I'm a new homeowner and I really just legitimately don't have the money and I have to hire this like one size fits all guy. This is all I can do right now.
Right.
Like, but there's a difference between going like, no, this is literally all I have and this is all I can do. It's better than living without a roof currently,
Yeah.
Or, going, oh no, this guy's great. I think he's the best. Why would I ever pay for this specialty guy when this guy, put a tarp up there? It's just knowing, hey, this is where I'm at currently. It'll happen eventually. And when I can offload these things, that's going to allow me to have more capacity to do what it is that I'm great at, being an artist or being a vocalist or being a performer or playing live shows or songwriting or storytelling or whatever that is.
Yeah. I had a thought, but it immediately just... So I'm going to flip the question back.
Okay.
What has been keeping you up at night? What has been your most persistent thought the past 2 weeks?
Oh, most persistent thought the past 2 weeks. Nobody usually throws these back at me, so
I chose 2 weeks because that was my frame, but you can zoom out or zoom in.
My most persistent thought for the past 2 weeks has been... You caught me off guard. I didn't come prepared for this. You were quick on your response. My most persistent thought for the past 2 weeks, I think, has been, I guess similar to you, like how to manage time better. I guess to get into real life, other than talking about that, is like, I'm really bad at like dealing with loss and understanding that. Is like, why am I so bad at letting things go or accepting that?
Was there something recently you had to let go?
Yeah, I mean, I think past couple years of my life, I've been hit with a lot of different things, and there's, my life looks wildly different now than it did 2 years ago or 3 years ago or even a year ago. Yeah. But also my grandfather just passed recently, like a week ago.
Damn, I'm sorry.
No, appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, I think every time something like that happens, I look at life and I go like, okay, I'm not good at moving on, and I like the idea of comfort a lot. And it's probably not a healthy way to approach most things in life, because it holds me back, I think, from taking the leap to doing a new thing or trying something new or accepting what's next, maybe. That's what's been real life on my mind. As far as work stuff goes, I mean, I'm just busy. I'm just busy and trying to figure out how there's enough hours in the day to live a healthy life, and get everything done that I need to get done, and take the strides to continue to do bigger things, better things, delegate things that I can offload to other people, managing that, the time that takes.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
I think a practice I've been trying to instill in my own mind lately is to put myself in the client's shoes. And if I'm like, so we go back to Wednesday, I was like, it was like 9 or 10 p.m. I was like, I got one more mix in me. I'm going to try it. And I was like, okay, if I'm this girl,
yeah,
am I wanting a mix that's going to be maybe 75% of what I can deliver now, or the 100% like service I paid for 2 days late?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Time is I hear you on the time thing. It's like, I think about my own calendar way more than my own bank account. Like it's like the stress and the feelings are so much more about the actual hours in the day than the actual money I do or don't have.
See, I think we're opposite in that. Is do I want to say this on camera? Not in like a way that I undermine the art, but I think about my bank account way more than I think about my calendar. Is like the fueling thing to me. Not that I'm some money hungry person, because I'm not, and I tell everybody I work with that. Like,
yeah,
I'll work for free half the time before, like, like I'm not like gun to your head, pay me or you're not getting anything. But the motivation for me wanting to get more done generally comes from wanting to expand revenue, which sounds, I hate saying those words out loud, but it definitely comes from that place of like not wanting more money. It's not more money, but it is more money, I guess, right? Like it's just wanting to move quicker towards the goal of having more, I guess. And if I can maximize time better and resources, that's not like saying that I want to stay up till 2 a.m. and mix at 50% capacity. Yeah. But it's saying like, how can I be healthy enough to do 2 mixes a day for an extended period of time and get things done and move on to the next and have people happy? Because it's just the more hours. And the more hours I put in, it's the bigger people I'm going to work with. It's the better I'm going to be at it. And all the more money I'll make, the more freedom I'll have. I say that I want more money because I just want more freedom to be able to do what I want, right? Mm-hmm. Which is maybe, again, just a pretentious way of saying I want more money. But like, money allows freedom. Like I want, more freedom to be like, I don't have to work today, or I can retire. I mean, that's the reality of it too. Like there's no retirement plan in what we do, right? There's no like, I get to check in my 401k. Like all I have is what's in my savings account, which isn't a lot. Like it's not enough to retire anytime, Yeah. So it's just long-term thinking of like, I need more in a certain time period in order to have peace, quote unquote, at the end of like to not be like, my biggest fear in life is like being like 65 and still being like, I gotta mix a record, and if I don't do that, I can't pay the mortgage. Like that is my greatest fear in life is still having to freaky. Like stress at 70 years old to make money doing whatever that looks like, because as I sit right now, pushing 30, I don't have a retirement. Yeah,
it just moves so different in our walk, and I feel like it's so hard to play the comparison game with peers who may or may not have started retirement accounts.
Sure, I mean, and what's in somebody else's pockets is nobody's business other than their own, I think. But that's just what I look at of like, and maybe I'm just like too future focused, I guess. But in thinking about that, but it definitely is something that I think about of like, if I don't start thinking about that now, or at least prioritizing like making moves to work towards something as I get older, like I'm gonna get caught in that comfort cycle of just being like, I'm happy waking up and working and I have enough to live today.
Yeah.
What do I need to worry about? And then I just see this world where I'm 65 and I'm like, mortgage is due. And
well, I don't mean to inspire you or brag or anything, but I was crunching the numbers last week, and I actually, for whatever reason, I would be able to retire today if I died next month.
You'd be able to retire if you died next month. I had to crunch the number in my mind quick of like, wait, what?
Well, this is
I don't know. And it's such an awkward conversation, right? Because we talk about this and we're talking about art, right? And the second you bring money into art is hard because it's like, oh, well, these guys are sitting here just caring about money. And like, probably the people we work with are like, oh, they probably just look at us as like some paycheck, which I never want anybody to feel like. But there is the reality of like, we do this for a living.
Yeah.
And it is our job and we are professionals and like, there's value on our time. And it is a business at the end of the day. Like it is like we both run businesses.
Yeah.
Which I think is why it's important to talk about money and to make people realize like, I don't think you want to be 65 or 70 doing day in and day out either, you know? So
I think this structure and this stress and this context that you're talking about applying to the work we do is like identifying it as a business and not a hobby anymore is meant to reduce stress, not induce it or create it.
Referring it to it as a business is meant to
reduce stress. Like structure is meant to be helpful, not creating pressure and creating stress.
Correct.
Right?
But I mean, I think there's pressure in finding the solution as well, you know, because it's not one size fits all, you know, and I think that's people talk about us as creatives and they, you know, people are always trying to push some like CRM service or automation for your business or like us. And I'm just like, no, you don't understand. Like everything's different. Like the way you run your business and work with people is wildly different than the way that I do things, which is wildly different than the way somebody listening to this does something. Yeah. And that's not to say that any one of those is wrong, good, bad. And like, there's no identifiers to any of them as long as it's like what works for that person and works for their business.
Yeah.
And finding that is hard because we have to wake up every single day and do this every single day, you know?
Yeah.
So finding something that's good long-term is the pressure, I think.
Yeah, a friend was talking about screenwriters, which is very similar to musicians, where it's like, I don't remember the context, but he was basically saying some professional screenwriters were giving advice to people who were just like interested in it. And they're like, do you have to do this? And it's like an interesting question. It's like, if you don't feel like you have to do this with your life, then don't do it. Or like state of being a hobbyist, right?
Yeah.
So potentially more joy in that pursuit. I'm going to pause really quick. I feel like this first leg of our conversation has started on such a stressful note of like real stuff.
I mean, we went there.
Yeah. But I did want to call that out and say that's not what this is all about because it's so important to talk about that. But at the end of the day, I'm having a blast in here. I can't leave. I can't get myself out of this room.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't say any of this like in some like impending doom, sort of the world is ending. Like it comes back to what you're saying. Like I say this to my wife all the time. I'm, you know, half joking, half whatever. I'm just like, I'm just going to get a job. I'm just going to get a job.
Be an NPC for a while.
Yeah. Like I'm just going to go. Yeah. Like I'm just going to go work at Target, do whatever. Like it's fine.
Sounds amazing, honestly.
It does, right? Yeah. And she's like, shut up. You know, you couldn't do that for even an hour. Like you're made to do that. Like you can't do anything else. Yeah. And it's true because I'm going to leave here. I'm going to go home. I'm already excited to go home and sit in that chair and mix records and make music. Like it is a joy at the end of the day, but you have to ground yourself in the reality, which is coming back to where we started with like you know, it is nice to be a young 20 something, or, I mean, I think kids are even younger than 20 hitting it big nowadays, but like, it's nice to be bright and bushy tail and think the world is great and you've got a viral hit and like everything's great, but like, that's not the reality of a business or a long-term career at all. Which is us on the other side talking about the reality of like, no, this is a business and it's got to work day in and day out. And just because you sign a record deal for $500,000 or $1 million, that's not a lot of money. It's not going to last you that long. You know, like it's just not. Which is, again, I'm the Debbie Downer today, I guess. But like,
I just realized this is so off topic, but I just realized this is my first time seeing you since you got married. I've never told. Well, I told you congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
But
Thank you.
Married man. It's my first time seeing you with a ring on your finger.
I know. It's kind of crazy.
Has that changed anything? Like,
oh, it changed everything.
Yeah. What's it like doing this job? Now you own your house. Now you're married. This is a lot different than the last time we really hung out and had a conversation.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
What does it look like? I mean, I was in a pretty long-term committed relationship before this as well. So, I mean, it's not like I've never been, it's not, entirely like, oh my goodness, I've never, done this with like a partner before. But yeah, I mean, there's just the pressure of providing, and I think the biggest thing is like finding balance in it, right? Whereas like, I think as a single person or being young or whatever and hungry, like, nobody cares if you stay up till 2 a.m. or that you're in like locked away and not answering your phone and like you're just gung ho on this thing, and nobody cares if you're out partying or drinking or doing like whatever. But now it's like I can't do that, and I don't want to do that, right? Like I want to have the weekends off, and I want to go to the park, and I want to sit on my patio and drink coffee and like relax.
I think that's sorry, finish your thought.
No, I mean that is the thought, but then there's the pressure of business and life being like, well, people are waiting. You got things to do, and like your calendar's backed up, and there's emails, and your phone. My phone just rang. Who's that? Yeah. What do they need? Like, and when you live without balance for so long, finding balance is a whole new game.
I think we're going through parallel journeys here. What you just said. Yeah. It's interesting. So you're probably way more experienced then based on the context you gave than I am. This is my first time like sending it. Like I had roommates up to this point. Most days I could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, we have our house. We're not married. This is what we tell people. We're pre-engaged. We're not just dating. It's not just my girlfriend. Not quite engaged, but we're pre-engaged.
You can't get a ring though because you spent all your money on everything else.
It sounds like a joke, but it's not. Hey baby, I made you a ring out of rock wool.
That's a good one.
But I was taking inventory yesterday. So she's been out of town this week. That's why I've been talking about pulling these long days this week or whatever. Because I was going to see. I was going to kind of role play as my old life again. And it's not better.
Like role play as my old life again. I love that. I love that exercise though.
Yeah. And it's been a great comparison of like, okay, I can kind of sleep whenever I want. And like, I can stay up as late as what I want and just like grind and skip meals. And it's like, she's so incredible because she's like, hey, it's 7 p.m. Like, what are we cooking for dinner? Like, let's make our meal plan for the week. Like, she's just like smart and on top of like being a normal human. And she doesn't have that brain disease that we have where she has to like obsessively chase after something nonstop. And she's very creative in her own way. And so like she has her own pursuits there, but like in general, like living life, like that has been such a positive influence for me of like, okay, I have these hours where I'm clocking in, I'm taking the weekend off. Like I have to basically apologize if I'm going to go and do something on a Saturday or Sunday. Hey, I'm sorry. This came up for this reason. And it's like, there's, it can sound like dude, I feared it. I feared it for so long because we put off doing this for like about a year, which I think was great ultimately. But we initially had wanted to do it a year prior. And, I was scared and like we had to have some tough conversations about that. And like, I couldn't figure out why I was scared. And I think just like, for whatever reason, I was just clinging to the thing I had. And we talk about all the stress and like being unable to zoom out and see that it could be different and it could be better. And like, it can make more sense and it could be healthier. I genuinely, I was taking inventory. It's been 6 months. And I was like, the music has been the best it's been. I think a huge part of that is also having like an actual studio instead of being in the basement or spare bedroom or whatever. Like a studio that's like mine, it's not temporary. I'm not just like here for a year. You know what I mean? Like I'm building this and it's going to stay. So let's make more thoughtful decisions about the room. But part of it too is just like having your life feel normal, like makes you so much better at what you do, I think.
Yeah. I think
for me, this is not a one size fits all. It's not,
and I think certain people thrive in different things. And I don't know. I mean, I think the word normal is something I would use cautiously, I guess, because I think everybody's idea of normal is different.
Well, that's what I mean. It's a completely subjective thing. Having my life be my version of normal that I would want. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much of that balance, though, of living life with another human, because it's not just self-centered, all about yourself, what you want to do, you know? Because, I mean, to have a relationship that works, it's a full-time job in itself, which, I mean, is, you know, maybe not the right thing to say, but, like, it is. Like, it takes active work. And if you don't put that work in, it doesn't work. Same thing with a business, right? Like, if you don't work for the business or work for yourself or get up in the morning and do the work, it's not gonna happen. Which is the advice I always give to people who are just starting out or say, like, how'd you get where you are? I'm like, I just woke up every day and I just worked. I did it. Which, for better or worse, I mean, it definitely had its issues. And I mean, and I fell flat on my face because of that mentality of giving 110% to work and kind of neglecting everything else in life, which is not healthy, which is, you know, coming back to what you're saying, it's going to bite you eventually, but it takes work, you know, same thing with a relationship. If you don't wake up every day and put in the work to do it, whatever that looks like, it's going to fail. But yeah, I mean, there's that though too, of the fear of that, right? Like, you knew what was working for you for so long and that got you to the career where you're at. So now you're like, if I move studios, it's going to be all different. What if it sounds bad? What if I can't make music in that studio? I went through that. Like, that was the whole reason. Like, I didn't buy as soon as I did, and I was just scared. And I was like, well, I'm comfortable here, and it's working. And like, why would I rip it up now? And like, I'm going to be down for like a couple weeks in the mood. Like, how do I tell people that I can't work? Like, what if I don't work for a week? It might go away, you know? So yeah, I mean, I totally get the fear side of things. Which goes back to my thing with comfort, you know? You get so comfortable in something that it's like terrifying to do anything new. But I mean, there's the encouragement on the back half that like, when you're in a place that you're taking care of yourself and being healthy, it does shake loose in the idea that it's better. It's going to be better. And even if it's not better, I think you're going to feel more fulfilled in it because you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I can often feel on the front leg like sinking sand in a way of like, you have to keep moving your feet and eventually maybe it can push into something a little thicker and a little bit like cement, but it's like still, it's my one flaw. I love metaphors too much. I've made like 5 today already.
No, I love them. I think it brings the conversation into terms that people can understand, I guess, to some extent.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the one thing. I have a degree in English. Not many people know that. I hated the audio program, and for whatever reason, my decision at 18 years old was I'm going to study English. So I feel like I use metaphors a lot in conversation, especially if it's a recorded one like this.
What inspires you?
Inspires me to do what?
Oh, good pushback.
To do good things.
I mean, we're on a dark path. We can take it back. I mean, I asked that, I guess, with the intention of saying, like, what inspires you, in the studio, I guess, like what inspires you creatively? And then what does that look like, I guess? Like, walk me through the whole path of it, I guess.
What inspires me? This might be a bit of a cheesy response, but like, honestly, people's reactions is so important. I'm going to speak a little vaguely, but I went through an experience that was difficult during the pandemic of like exclusively writing with one person. And we reached a year where it was like, I don't think we like a single thing we've made this year. And it was like so difficult. I don't want to make it ever sound like it's that person's fault or whatever, but we were going through a period of growth and it is what it is. But to like recently, it's so much less about like the thing that it's all about for me is like, if I can make someone happy that like I'm working with, and like get them excited, like that bounces back and forth, and vice versa. If I can make sure I'm sharing my positive energy with them, like that is like a decision you have to make. It pays off and it inspires them. For example, I have a lot of stuff right now with a friend's dad who's a pure hobbyist, which is just like, it's been so refreshing to do that a little bit amidst the other things I'm doing, because he's just like, music is just still just, it has only ever been like pure joy for him. He's been a songwriter his whole life. He's 70. Yeah. First thing we cut, he wrote 50 years ago. This was his first. He doesn't use voice memo. He writes everything down and he just plays it, and that's how he remembers.
That's amazing.
He has one sheet of paper for every song with the chords and the lyrics on it.
School.
He lost his briefcase for a day that had to him.
Briefcase.
He lost those songs that were written.
Wow.
It was crazy. I have to burn him CDs and everything. It's a whole different experience than anything else we work on. But when we work together, just the excitement of like being able to record stuff in and like put a song together. We're not trying to push or break any boundaries. This is like very classic, like just like Laurel Canyon style songwriting and singer-songwriter production. And the excitement that comes from that has just been like so fulfilling. Yeah. He's also, in a position, the lifelong career as a lawyer. He's able to pay my full rate. There's absolutely no stress when we talk about the money stuff. And it's just been like so...
Yeah.
It's been feeding my soul so deeply. And the music's good too. It's not something I'm taking for the money or whatever. Like it's so different than the other stuff we work on, because it's not ever going to be about the metrics or anything. It's about the joy of making music. And the fact that I'm profiting off of that too is just like a win-win.
I've definitely had those situations where I've done that thing, where people love it so much. I mean, and I think there's probably a lesson in that to maybe somebody younger listening or starting out, that like, there's something so pure and honest about that there's no pressure. Like, and they're not trying to sell these songs. Like, like that guy's probably not even, he might show it to his friends, but like, that's for him. Yeah. And that's all you can do. It's all you can do. Because if you're doing it for anybody else, it's not going to be fulfilling to you at the end of the day. It's not going to be fulfilling to the collaborators you're working with. You have to do it for yourself in a real tangible way. But I love the idea of somebody's reaction being an inspiration. What's something that like you're not in the studio, you're not working with somebody, you're alone. What what is there things that like pop up that you're like, oh, it gets me thinking about that, or that makes me want to go sit in the studio and do something, or is it? I mean, there doesn't have to be an answer to that. I mean, is it strictly like you kind of turn that side off, and then when you're here, you're playing essentially?
I don't know. I mean, again, another cheesy answer, but it's in those moments where you like feel like you're living, that you're like, I'm alive. Like I am like this. I am like an animal. Like I am in a body of flesh.
I am an animal,
and I am part of this system that involves daylight and nighttime and weather seasons.
When do you feel like that?
If I'm on a walk,
I don't know that I've ever felt like that before.
I'll be like on a walk and the sun's shining down. There's like a little bit of shade from trees, and like these two small dogs in some neighbor's yard are like barking at me, and I'm like staring at them. I'm like, we're just two living things, just like trying to make noise and like get what we want and like stay alive. And it's just like such a stupid answer. Oh my God.
No, I love that. You just compared yourself to like a doll. You're like, we're just both making noise.
Trying to chihuahua. Yeah.
Trying to make noise. Staying alive.
We're just trying to get a seat at the table alive. What about you? What's something?
Oh, what inspires me?
Yeah. I wish I had a better answer to your last question. But
no,
yeah.
I think those answers are
that
amazing.
Chihuahua barking inspired me last week.
I am going to never look at dogs barking the same again. My neighbors have these tiny little yappy dogs that just never shut up, and I want to strangle them. The worst part of me comes out when I hear those things, and I want to hurt them.
Our neighbor has roosters. That's the thing that we deal with here. Yeah,
that might be worse.
Yeah, you might hear one. They've been quiet this morning, but yeah.
But now I have a new lease on hearing them. I'm going to be like, we're just doing the same thing right now. we're in the same boat. Anyway, what inspires me? I don't know. I find inspiration in a lot of things. sometimes. I'm a visual guy, so I like the idea of kind of photography and visuals. I find a lot of, this is maybe a weird answer, but to keep it away from specifics, but at least I try to. It's not always easy, but I find a lot of inspiration in the mundane.
Keep talking.
The flies. I find a lot of inspiration in kind of the mundane of life sometimes, of the simple routines of waking up, cooking, drinking coffee out of the same mug, making coffee. And I guess it's somewhat of an inspiration, but also somewhat of a grounding exercise. And a lot of that is reflected in the art that I like. And photography and videography is a lot of times I love like artists like Gregory Crutzen, who they take these pictures that are just still life pictures of nothing really. Like it might just be a film photographer, like photo of just like a house with the lights on, or like just a street with like a person walking by or whatever. And it's like, to maybe just somebody not in touch with it, they would look at it and go like, that's a picture of a house or of a street. But like, to me, it's like, no, that's beautiful in the mundane of like the colors and the shapes and the life of it. Or like a lot of, like the new Masters of None, the season they did where it was shot on film and the camera never moves. It's a stationary shot the whole time. Cool. They shot it on film and it's a stationary shot the whole time, and it's this voyeuristic look almost where everybody, like, people are moving within the frame, but the camera never moves. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's voyeuristic in a way that is mundane almost, you know? And that's kind of the thing that inspires me a lot is that idea of just like life in the mundane. I hear the rooster's going now too.
You heard the rooster. I jinxed it. I like this. I mean, this is classic, but like the overlap of being inspired by different mediums.
Yeah, I mean, I say that a lot. Like, I'm not inspired by music. I don't listen. I mean, I listen to music on Fridays, like to hear like new stuff that came out and like gauge stuff. And like, I'll put on music while I'm cooking or something to just have some background noise. But it's rare that I sit down and like enjoy music for fun, which is kind of depressing to say out loud. But it doesn't inspire me in the way that it used to as like a angsty 16-year-old or 15-year-old, where I would just, put in some AirPods while you're going to bed and just spend hours like finding records on a CD player or
you had AirPods at 16?
Well, not I time travel. No, you know what I mean, like the earbuds, the wired old school,
Oh my god!
Coming from when they barely fit your ears because they were like just a circle.
Sucked.
They were so bad. If somebody has a pair of those, send them my way because I'd love to hear what they sound like nowadays.
I do the newer, more ergonomic ones.
I have those too. Yeah. I like to use those to check like S's and stuff. Actually,
oh yeah, it's great to work.
The wired ones,
yeah.
I mean, they're the most blistering sounding thing.
They're awesome.
But yeah, I mean, music doesn't do that anymore, and I'm okay with that actually. For a while I was kind of, it felt depressing to say that out loud of like, music doesn't inspire me, and it's still. I mean, that's not a fair thing. Like, it does still. I'll put on a record and be like, oh, wow, there's something like injected in this that I can feel tangibly that is inspiring to me to do something else. But it's few and far between, and it's definitely not as prevalent as it was when I was younger, growing up listening to music. I think it's just a different time in my life, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm in a whole different stage,
Somehow, like, I think that transition happened to me fairly recently in the past, like, 4 years. But
interesting.
There is something I want to point out to try to be positive about it from my own experience with that, because I totally relate. And there's like this freakiness where you're like, oh, it's not, and it used to, and it's not pounding, the door down to my soul anymore. But what am I trying to say? Like, when I started producing and like having a little bit of success with like finishing songs, just like the bare minimum you can ask for, like I still was so in touch with that feeling, and like stuff I would make would have those reactions. But the flip side is everything else would have the polar reaction of like, oh, this is so bad. And like, it would just be such a heavy feeling and heavy spectrum to live on that just felt it felt unprofessional. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I could do this for my whole life if I'm always feeling this heaviness in one direction or the other about something I'm involved with. And I'm actually very grateful that heaviness is kind of evaporated into it doesn't sound, I don't think it's a depressing thing. I think it's a little bit just more stoicism of like, we practice being unbiased about music so much as like people who work on it to refine it and try and deliver a service. And I think that's amazing that I can sit down and like have joy from the process of making a song better, even if it's not some song that's like knocking my socks off. Because I used to just have to walk away from the computer and I'd get depressed if I don't like the song.
That's actually a beautiful, beautiful outlook on it, to be honest. Like I love that concept is like we gave up something, but in return we gained the ability to like finish and you said it way better than I'm losing it now, but we gain the ability to be available to work on a lot of things and finish them without what's the word I'm looking for? Without bias. Perspective.
Distraction, being distracted by our own emotions. I feel like being able to see, they just need to make some way where you can turn it on and off. I'm sure drugs do that.
I guess I could say it live on podcast, but I mean, I like to use marijuana for that sometimes. Like I can't work or function with it, but it's fun at the end of the day sometimes to partake in that.
Have perspective
and
like react.
The perspective is insane because I sit there and that's when I feel like emotional about music and I see it. And I don't like to open Pro Tools or do anything, in that mode because it's just a heightened experience. But I'll write notes. Like I'll take notes being like, oh man, that like it needs to more snare because it's just that's what's driving here. Or the vocal like isn't speaking to me in the way, or like we need more 12K because it's
Yeah.
So I think there's a level of perspective that sometimes an altered state of mind can give you that this is not personal advice, but I think there is some value when used in moderation that can tap back into that like childlike thing sometimes that feels new.
That's cool. I'm so glad. The cops will be here in 3 minutes. I just called them.
I don't know.
No, I'm just playing with you.
Anybody who knows me in real life knows of my vices. But yeah, I mean, it's not something I can like do and work with.
Yeah,
like I think
that'd be difficult.
State of mind is just not. And that's not to say that other people can't, but I
feel like some people need to. Seems like,
but I mean, I think that's a dangerous place to live and a crutch to have, but that's a whole other thing. What do you think's the weirdest thing about yourself? I knew this would be an amazing question to ask you.
Nothing.
Where'd your mind go right there immediately? That laugh was you went somewhere.
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna go.
Okay,
go. But I'm gonna maybe contextualize it first because I'm answering the question of like I don't think anything about myself is weird. And for better or for
that's
worse.
Fair. And that's not maybe that's a weird question to say.
Everything to me is like I'm just like, that makes sense. Well, let me think on that. What's something to me that's weird about me? And I'm going to figure that out. But I'll answer it is like, to other people, something that I think is weird is like, I'm a pretty hyperactive person. Like for whatever reason, maybe it's because I'm a little sleep deprived, but I'm sitting still right now. It's because we're on camera. But like, Kim will be like, she's like, I don't get it. I'll just be staying in the kitchen and I'll just be like, I'll start laughing. And she's like, what? And I'm like, and it's just like, you just get these like little Sour Patch Kid bursts of like excitement for no reason. It's the ADHD. It's gotta be. I was diagnosed about a year ago finally, but my whole life has just lived that way. It's just like, we knew it, and I it comes out in a bunch of ways, but in most contexts, I think I channel it positively. I think it can also be a difficult thing where it's like sometimes I have a really hard time like being calm about doing something simple. Like the other day, like something that was a big struggle was tracking. You know, we started talking about like tracking drums for like a week straight or whatever. It's like I absolutely love the end results I get and the joy of playing with just being the recording producer, recording engineer role, and letting someone else be the musician. But also, it's like sometimes so difficult to sit there and listen to someone else play the instrument, take over, because it sounds so fun, and I just want to be on the drum kit. I know I'm not nearly as good as them, but I just so like I get this like anxiety sometimes when I just have to sit and listen to someone, or because I want to be. You know, I want to start mixing it. Oh, we can't. It's literally being recorded right now. Or I want to get on the drum kit and try it. I'm not good at drumming. Like, that's probably like a weird thing going on in my brain. I need to think about okay, I'm going to flip it back on you, but I want to
worried about that.
Well, I'm going to. That's how podcasts should work.
Yeah, well, this is my show, so I don't have to answer anything.
You're right. I want to. What's more interesting is to take your question more literally. Like, what do I think? What is the weirdest thing to me about myself? And that I don't know, but I think it is the emotional roller coaster that we've talked about recently. I'm like, why do I feel this way? Like, why do I feel these things that are just false about myself?
Yeah.
And it's weird. Like,
I think we all do that. I mean, I think we all chose this path. Like, because nothing that you're saying, I don't disagree with or resonate or feel either. Like, it always feels like there's like a constant struggle and fight, and you know, and like there's an awareness that I think we all possess in the creative world that we check ourselves in such a critical way that is hard and holds us back, because we have a thought, but we have that other part of us go like it crushes that thought right away. You know, so it's you're constantly fighting back and forth.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing about myself, though, I don't know. I've asked that question to like a few people, and it's honestly not one that I've put much thought into myself. I think I'm a very I can be OCD at times. Like I can be very, and I mean I use that. I don't know. I'm not diagnosed or anything, but like I can be very like everything has to be in its place for me to be able to like function. Like I won't be able to work if like this, like if it's a mess or if it's not like the way I like it. It has to be my way, you know? And that sounds harsh and like strict, but I'm a structured person in the sense that like for me to know that I can do something and feel good about it, it has to like, I need things in place, you know? Like I need, like certain things will drive me crazy if like that's out of place or if that's not straight or if the lines aren't straight, you know, like coming back to like photography almost, it's like if the horizon line's off or, you know, when it comes to like mixing, like if the bass isn't colored exactly the color red I like I just, the track, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, and that's, to most people, it's like, dude, what do you mean? Like, you can't even mix the bass if it's not? And I'm like, no.
Oh my God.
You know, like
I relate.
Like I could put 100 different compressors on it and it won't sound right until it's in my template colored the way it needs to look, you know?
This is huge. It's so stupid, but
it's stupid,
it's just
but
habit.
It's strange. Yeah, it's habit. I'm a very habit driven person, right? Like, which maybe comes back to my persistent thought of like, why can't I break that? Like, why can't I mix that bass guitar until it's red? You know, like why can't I give that up? Like, why if it's green, does it drive me absolutely insane?
I love this, actually. This is a little tangential, but you're talking about being a very visual person. I think a lot of us are. I mean, and everyone, as far as I can tell, is obsessed with their colors, but also everyone's colors are kind of different. I mean,
they're wildly different. I get sessions all the time and I'm like, you're crazy. Drums are yellow? You're out of your mind.
You're kidding me. I want to see your reaction of my colors. Let's keep it lighthearted. Bass is purple for me. Sometimes brown. It depends on the type of bass.
Oh, so you go like the type of bass. Depending.
It's if the bass is more of like a mid-range driving instrument and you get more of the low end from the actual kick, then the bass will be more of a brown. If it's more of like a 70, like kind of like funk, not 70 hertz,
that's
70s.
Not far
like,
off for me. Bass is always red to me.
Drums are always red to me, and the reason why, like
that's a pretty common color I see
really?
for drums.
I mean, it's because they're always the ones clipping. They're always making the meters red. So it's just like, I associate it with red.
Drums are green.
Drums are green. Me. That's funny. Guitars are, see, the rest of mine get a little.
But I will do different colors of green based on, because like obviously I get live drum kits mixed with like fake drums and mixed with like percussion stuff. So I do all different shades of green, and there's no like real rhyme or reason to that. Yeah. Usually as long as they're different and I could quickly see like, oh, that's the kit, that's this, that. But they're always only like one shade away. Like, you know how Pro Tools has the like, they're always just one, so it's a very clean palette.
That's nice. That is pleasing.
And it's always drums first in the session and then bass. Well, it's drums and anything like drummy, like percussion, and then I put like effects and stuff like swooshes and like downers, and then it's bass is like where I start.
That's so interesting. Okay, so this is the thing that drives me crazy. I can't mix with the arrangement going downwards. The arrangement needs to go upwards for me.
Interesting.
So the arrangement needs to reflect the way that I see the music stacking sonically. So it's like drums are at the bottom because they're supporting
and your
the
mix
song.
Print is at the top?
Yeah. Yeah, the mix bus at the top. And then the food group bus is underneath that. And then vocals. And then
what color are vocals?
Yellow and orange.
Okay, we're the same. Yellow.
Cool.
I do yellow vocals. Yeah.
I like orange for the lead vocals sometimes, but yellow for vocals.
Orange is the color I do like my buses and groups.
Oh, see, those are just black for me.
Okay.
Any aux is always black.
The things I use gray, like black for, are like printed effects. Like when I get like verbs printed, whatever, that's all black.
Yeah, same.
Wild. And the guitars for me are like blue. Keys are always like dark purple. Synths are like brighter pinks. Like all the mid-range instruments live in the blues and purple world.
Okay.
And that's all my colors, really.
What do I make blue? I think all my keys are like, they're not blue, they're cyan, so like a light blue. Because it's like synths or cyan.
Acoustic guitars are light blue, yeah, for me.
No, acoustic
like
guitars are green.
Blue.
All guitars are green for me.
Gotcha.
It's a very like a alliteration for me. Guitar is green, synths cyan.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's a rhyme.
Piano used to be pink, but now I don't like that.
See, people always ask me that. They're like, well, why? And I'm like, no reason. I just committed to it when I was like 16 and started. I just was like, that's the color. And I've never stopped doing that color.
Yeah. Is there like, there might be like an official system out there that they teach to kids, but that's so dumb.
What? No way.
I think so.
If there's an
at Belmont, there is. Yeah.
No, there's
it's
not.
So dumb.
There's no way that Belmont is teaching that.
Yes, because all my friends with audio degrees are like stuck in their colors that they were taught at school.
What?
But I think that what we're describing, like a color, it should mean something to you, right? It
means nothing to me other than I committed to it and I'm never wavering.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to be 65 still having to mix records and it's going to be the same color.
The bass is red. That drives me a little crazy. But I then for you, if bass is not red,
it drives me even crazier.
Yeah. See, purple's just generally a pretty dark and heavy color. Like you don't really have too many light purples.
See, but you're putting more thought into it than I ever put into it.
Yeah. Exactly.
I just got a session one day and I was like, you need like colors every time because otherwise they're going to be crazy. And it also drives me crazy. You people are animals. If you're doing this and you're listening to this, please seek real help. But like people who just have no colors in general, like people who just rock Pro Tools and they're just like an assortment, you're an animal. But the other thing that makes me want to like crawl out of my skin is when the tracks are a color, but then all the clips don't match the color of the tracks. I'm like, I don't even know how you physically do that, but people do it, and I'm like, it's chaos. Like people like that love chaos.
I only do it in vocal editing, and it's very intentional.
Sure, well you can.
But then when we comp, when I'm comping a vocal, I like to see where the colors change, and then as soon as the comp
Pro
is
Tools
done,
automatically does that anyway.
Yeah,
like when you do a new playlist, like on purpose, which I do like that. But yes,
the playlists being random colors, I can get behind. But what you described makes me want to crawl on my skin. Ableton's even worse. I think they have like twice as many colors as Pro Tools. And when people send me, and it's just like every track is a different color, and it's just random.
Because Ableton drives me crazy because you can't, like when you color code the track, and maybe I'm wrong, but like you can't color code the clip to be the same color. You have to manually do it. And finding the same color is always impossible because, like you said, there's like 42 colors you could pick from on Ableton.
There's an automation for it where you just do all the tracks and you select all the tracks, right click it, and then it's like assign track color to the clips.
Oh, you just save me so much time.
Yeah, it'll save you a lot of
I didn't
time.
know that was a thing. Wow.
And you can also do it for groups. So if the group is one color, you can assign that color to everything in the group and all the clips in the group. So,
oh man, I've been wasting so many hours.
Yeah, it's in the right click menu. It's buried like in the bottom half. But
genius.
Yeah, if you're in Ableton,
because like if I produce, I usually do it in Ableton, and dealing with that was always like for my own OCD of like cleaning it up.
Yes, I totally feel your pain. And so when I'm producing it, I like creating all the tracks just being blank, just like white or like a black, like just something very plain. But then like every 30 minutes, I color code.
Just clean it up.
Yeah,
keep it.
And that's a habit that came along, dude. If I look back at old archives from about 5 years ago of the stuff I was producing, that did come out and do well, but I'm like, dude, how did I survive? This is just like, I learned to organize along the way. But here's sort of tangential but related question is like, because I imagine it's the same for you. Like, I use like three DAWs at any given moment. Like, I have Logic, Pro Tools, and Ableton, and they all serve different purposes to me. The way the colors serve different purposes, and like I can't do certain things in certain DAWs. It's like that's sort of the OCD thing. I mean, I don't have that, but it's like I can't. Like, I love throwing stuff down and messing around and warping with it in Ableton, but I can't do too much mixing in Ableton. No, it's awful.
I'm the same way. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm 98% mixing, so I mean, it's always Pro Tools. But I can't. So, like, if I do produce or I want to play or do whatever, it's Ableton for me, which I love because you could warp and throw things. Like, you could make a sound so quickly in there, where in Pro Tools it's like mind bending just to put a sample and like stretch it to the tempo is like 7 days worth of work. Which maybe it's gotten better, or I'm just dumb and don't know how to do it. But Ableton's like, I need to do all that in Ableton. But the problem I run into with Ableton is like editing is impossible. I don't know how you people like. I get on people who like when I get files, I'm like, cut the noise between takes, and like, I'm the first guy to be like that with mixing of like, yo, I made your mix better just by cleaning up your mess.
Yep.
But I get it because editing in Ableton and Logic is just infuriating. Like, it is so impossible to understand how to do things, and you can't zoom in far enough and see the waveform.
Logic makes me want to scream.
It's crazy. It's like snaps to the relative grid on Logic. I don't know what they're trying to do here, but so what I do is I get like the whole mess of a thing, and then I just dump it into Pro Tools, and that's where I'll like clean up the edits and tune and do all the like. I don't even know how to use vocal line in Ableton or anything. Like, so So yeah, I'm very much with you where they serve very intentional purposes. I do use Logic as well occasionally, just because so many people use it, and like if I'm collaborating and I know it's going to be a collaborative thing, I'll usually just suck it up and use Logic because I know Logic has a lot of good built-in sounds as well. So I like that if I just want to like kind of stick with something stock.
If someone was like, dude, okay, but here's the thing, I was going through the stock Ableton plugins and there's some wacky stuff in there.
Yeah, but they don't have any great like normal instruments.
No, absolutely not. It's like, all for weird hyperpop dubstep people who want to make a sound that's never existed before.
Yeah,
I was half asleep in bed last night, and I made like I was just clicking random things on a splice loop just because I was bored, and like I made like the craziest like ambient pad thing in like 2 minutes with like Ableton stock plugins.
Do you have Max for Live?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't have any of that craziness, but you can get. I mean, you can do absolutely anything at that rate.
It's crazy.
My brain doesn't work well enough to do that.
I want to like have a couple good compressors, a couple good EQs, a couple good saturation things, and just track instruments, and that's about it for me.
Yeah, Ableton's a good way to like capture and warp and mess things up, but it definitely
is good for writing. Someone's like, let's change the key of this, let's change the BPM. Oh my god! About 5 hours into a co-write that was all in Pro Tools last year. We were working. So there were 4 of us. There was an engineer. There was me, just kind of the wild card. There was the artist, and then there was like a co-writer who was mostly a lyric focused person in this setting. But he works every day in Ableton all the time, and he's like an Ableton wizard. And about 5 hours into us making this beat and then writing the song's all done. We're about to cut vocals. He goes, "Hey, could it be 2 clicks faster?" And me and the engineer, just like who are Pro Tools guys, were like, "Oh." Yes, it could, but we just like
I don't even know how you'd approach that in Pro Tools. You got to put everything in like clicks mode and then like change it, I think.
I was like, y'all go outside for like 15 minutes. Or
like 15, you're cruising. I would have needed 2 hours. I would have had to call a guy.
Oh my God.
I would have had to call a guy.
That's totally on him though, for being someone that wants to do demo rights in Pro Tools. Cause like that happens all the time. And that is such a important step when someone's like, hey, is this the right key? Is this the right BPM? Like Ableton is so kind with that.
Yeah, and it sounds like I don't
better. Yeah.
When I edit in Pro Tools, I don't use their flex. Like I just don't like I cut drums by hand still.
Yeah.
And pull it. I mean, I'm sure it's gotten better. I mean, it's 2023. Like,
yeah,
you know.
But I haven't even shot it out because it's like sometimes if I have to do that stuff, I just stem out to Ableton and I do those things just for the warp and then bring it back to Pro Tools.
The only problem with Ableton is they're like automatic markers are always like awful. Like they're never on time. But yeah, I mean, Ableton definitely. That's the other thing is Logic. Like I could hear a vocal from 7 miles away that had the Logic flex pitch on it.
Yeah.
Oh man, that thing is just like tune using Melodyne, please, because so you could hear that like artifact so much.
It's brutal. I have this memory, like the first project I've made, like early college, 4-song EP with my friend from high school. Neither of us can sing well, but we're singing all over it. And then we discovered about like 3 months into this process that like you can tune vocals. And we were like, whoa, this just made our album like 10 times better because now our vocals are in key.
There's so much joy in like the early stages of the innocence of recording. Yeah, like I mean, I remember so many of those things too. I don't know. There's yeah.
I remember when I first discovered what multiband compression was when I was 17, and I had like a little fun song I made with some friends for like a pep rally at school, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna master this. And I like, I had $0 to my name, quite literally. So I couldn't. They didn't have any stock multiband. I didn't think to go find a free one, so I was like, I'm just gonna try and design it. So I like created 3 like of the same auxes that had like the cutoff EQs with the stock EQs at like 3 different points, and then compressors after them. It was so fun. I think for what I was going for at the time, I got the work done. I would never do that today, but it was just like a fun exercise. I'm going to try and like design a multi-brand template.
I think about that a lot, where it's like the tools you and I had starting out is so crazy different than what everybody has now starting out. Like I don't know about what your first like rig was, but I mean, I started before I even knew what I was like a child basically, but I was using like Audacity just with like a gooseneck like microphone,
Yeah.
But after that, I mean, I think I got like a tiny little interface with like Cubase.
Ooh.
Which I guess still is even more fancy than anything else. But I mean, you could only use like 8 tracks at a time. Like the Cubase Lite was like whatever 16 tracks of audio, and you couldn't even use MIDI because it was like the latency was so bad, and you could only have like 3 tracks of MIDI, and like to make a real record, like you needed like an HD rig back then.
Yeah.
Like you needed $20,000 to get into it, and now people out of the gate get Chromebooks for free from their school. That they could load up whatever they want on it, or they get a MacBook or an iPad for free,
Yeah.
They're not even paying for the computer half the time. Schools are giving things away. And you could have endless tracks. Like all those like DAWs, you could do 4 million tracks of MIDI and instruments and everything. And like I just think back, like, and every plugin known to man. And it's just crazy to think back to like the limitations we had starting out versus what the cost of entry is now as far as like making a real record. Like there's no barrier. There's no barrier.
It reminds me, I cut my teeth early. This is not to brag because it did not turn out good, but my dad got me Pro Tools when I was like 14 or 15.
Oh geez. With like a whole,
it was like the SE Pro Tools 8 SE or whatever.
SE, yeah.
And he got me a DVD set. So I was learning Pro Tools and like having fun or whatever. And it was mostly just like tracking stuff with friends. And we had a drum kit and bass and a guitar and like a crappy MIDI controller. But like we got a lot done. But this is where the story gets funny. I got really into dubstep when I was like 16 or 17. And I cracked Massive, Native Instruments Massive. And I learned to make dubstep remixes in Pro Tools and automating like dubstep things. And like,
there you go.
This is a joke. was like, this is the hardest thing you can possibly do.
Do you still have the recordings?
Yeah, it's on YouTube somewhere. I'll have to show you. It's a Call Me Maybe remix.
Let's
mashed up with Darude Sandstorm.
I'm gonna play it at the end of this if you find it. I'm gonna rip it off YouTube, and the outro of this is gonna be that.
It was called DJ Robot Rob.
DJ Robot Rob.
Yeah.
Yo, you're about to get a lot of hits on that.
Oh
song
my god.
Right now.
It's unlisted, but I can show it to you.
I think you should list it just for the people watching.
I caught a little flack because it was during Hurricane Sandy, and I sampled a news reporter talking about Hurricane Sandy in the middle of Darude Sandstorm drop. It was Darude Sandstorm mixed up with Call Me Maybe. It went so hard. And I made it in Pro Tools. I'll have to show it to you. It's so funny.
I gotta guess now. Any final words for the people?
Dude, yeah, this has been a great conversation.
This is fun. I had fun, man. I think we got heavy, we got light.
Yeah, we kind of touched on all the bases. I mean, I don't know. It's an honor to be here. I like the things you make, so it's cool to be a part of it.
Well, I love the things you make. You got a beautiful studio here.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to shoot in here. Fun. It was actually like, if nothing else, this podcast is amazing because it forced me to clean in here.
It's just been a fun journey because we both bought a house like the same week and are building these studios at the same time, and it's been a fun journey to watch the progress both of us are making.
Yeah, I realized I think I'm the first person on this podcast that's not married. No, that's not true.
No.
Yeah, no, married. Etzel's married.
Etzel, Sam, Cam Becker's not.
He's not. Yeah, I don't know him personally, but he follows my meme page, so I feel like I don't even follow your meme page. You should. You might.
Do I? I don't think so.
I don't know. I'll make sure you do.
I have to. I need a meme page.
But he engages with it. Yeah, it's fun.
Oh, geez. I'm not hip enough to make a meme page. I don't think
it's part of my brain disease.
Your brain disease is
being obsessed with memes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not as hip to these things. I don't get Gen Z humor like at all.
Honestly, me neither. Yeah. I'm not on TikTok. Are you okay?
I'm on TikTok.
Yeah,
I love me some TikTok.
Oh my god,
you're not on
the opposite of standing. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, I thought that was like what everyone's talking about right now.
Maybe I'm not. Again, I'm not like super hip.
It's a song called "Sitting is the opposite of standing." I made a TikTok account and then I never used it, and then 2 years passed and I realized I want to make an exercise of like how you can mess with the algorithm and train it to like show you what you like. So I told myself like I only like home improvement videos.
Yeah.
And I went hard on it for like an hour. And now I have a great TikTok if I'm ever feeling wanting to feel inspired for the home.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I pull up TikTok.
Like, you use it like Pinterest almost.
I use it like Pinterest. Yeah. And Kim got me into Pinterest recently. To zoom back earlier, I just had this thought. What's been inspiring me lately? Living with an interior designer, and like she's got me like excited about furniture.
Yeah. I mean, buying a house, I said that is like the hobby I have now. You know, like it's just a never ending project that like I almost force myself to work just so I don't have to work on the house a lot of times. Because I'm like, I know if I'm not working in the studio, my wife's going to be like, oh, did you do that thing? Did you put cameras up? And did you finish the paint? And so it's like, yeah, it's just a never, which is good because I need things to keep me busy. But at the same time, it's a little overwhelming to like look at, but it's also fun because it's so you can do whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
I had Etzel over that first time when I had like first bought the house and he's like, did you punch a hole in the wall yet? And I'm like, no.
You have to patch it up.
Yeah, why would I want to do that? He's like, well, it's your house. You can do whatever you want. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think you really want to do that though.
He said something similar to me. That was funny. I don't remember what it was. Yeah.
All the holes in my wall are accidental and I'm annoyed when I look at them.
Yeah.
Because I missed the hole or I missed the stud somewhere and then it's
oh my God. It's a year of learning, it's a year of growth. It's a year of trying to be healthier.
I feel that. It's a process.
Yeah.
Being healthier isn't always easy. It's not the easy option, which is the hard part.
Everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yeah.
Moderation and moderation.
You pick and choose when you want to be moderate.
Yeah, that's my motto for my life.
That's a slippery slope.
That's the title for the podcast.
Everything moderation in moderation.
Everything in moderation, including moderation.
Bobby, thanks for this.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Till next time.
Till next time.
Peace.
Just in case,